We're going to go through. It's kind of the same format as last week. I do have the songs to play, and too bad, too good. There we go. And you might be surprised about some of the bad, some of the good. So let's open in prayer. Lord, we give you this time, and we ask that as we gather here, that you would speak into our hearts, that you would open up our minds, that you would give us a glimpse of the glory of who you are in our lives. And we ask this in your name, amen. All right, so I do have a projector. It's not projecting as much as we would like, but it's up there, sort of. So we'll sort this out, I promise. But for right now, this is what we got. All right, so last week, we started with the good song, then we went to the bad, then we went to the good, then we went to the bad. This week, we're going to start with the bad, then we're going to do a good, and then we're going to do a bad, and then we're going to end the whole series on a good song. As you should. So, the bad is a song called, you can't see it up there, but it's called the Cradle Song. Anybody familiar with the Cradle Song? No? Nobody knows the Cradle Song? You don't know the Cradle Song? All right, well, let me play. I'm going to play the Cradle Song for you, and if you know it, let me know. Okay? It's like a little lullaby. You know the Cradle Song? All right. I'm going to tell you why I call it the Cradle Song. Because that is the original name for that song. In fact, there's a really cool history of it. You can't see it up here. But if it sounds like Away in the Manger, it's because it is. And this is, it's sometimes referred to as the Cradle Song. It's sometimes referred to as Luther's Cradle Song. So the idea was that tradition had it that Martin Luther wrote this song and would sing it to his own children. That's where the song comes from. And that throughout Germany, that mothers would sing this song to their children as they're going to sleep during the season of Advent or Christmas or whatever. And so that was basically the legend or lore that kind of surrounded this song, was that it was written by Martin Luther. It's all throughout Germany. Everybody in Germany knows this song, and all the mothers sing this to their children, of course. Now, none of that is true. And it was published. You can find 4 different publications during this time. It's like 18th century. You can find like 4 different publications of people talking about this song as Luther's Cradle Song, in which is all over Germany, and everybody in Germany knows it, and that all the mothers would sing it to their children. You can find 4 different published articles on this, and none of it's true. It was all made up. In fact, the song originates in the United States. They couldn't find a single person in Germany who knew of this song. Even further than that, they couldn't find a single person in the rest of the world outside of the United States who knew this song. So all that we know about who wrote it is that it was somebody in the United States, because the rest of the authorship is just gone. So modern scholarship has debunked all of that. Germans never heard of it. The Irish, nobody, just the United States. So authorship of the song is unknown. And I'm presenting to you that it's unknown because the author may very well just be embarrassed by some of the theology in here. Just didn't want to put their name on there. Is it a good song? Do you like this song? If I attack away in the manger, how many of you are going to get, all feisty? All right. At least one. Okay. So, what? You already killed Santa Baby. I'm sorry, Randy. I'm really sorry. We went to go pick up a Christmas tree yesterday, and my kids were like, put Santa Baby on, put Santa Baby on. And I thought of you immediately. Randy's favorite song. All right, so Away in the Manger, probably a little too embarrassing to put your name on there. Why? It doesn't just misstep. It falls into heresy in one particular place. And so a lot of the problem with these hymns is, well, I don't like that, like what I shared with you last week. I don't like that they removed the Trinity from the song. But what they replaced with it was pretty good theology. It wasn't bad theology. I just don't like the idea that they stripped out the Trinity. This song just has bad theology in it. And I'll show you where it is. But the bad theology is called Docetism. And Docetism is the idea that what you're going to do is you're going to look at Jesus as the Christ, the Messiah, and you're going to strip out the humanity out of his physical body. Yes?
Since I can't see it, could you spell Docetism?
Yeah, Docetism.
Oh, like docet, like a museum's docet. Okay.
There you go. So, so the idea behind this heresy is that you look at Jesus and you say he's the Christ, the Messiah, but his body, because he's the Christ and the Messiah, is not human, surely. And the way that you can kind of see this taking place in people's minds is Jesus didn't feel pain on the cross. Jesus didn't get tired. Jesus didn't have to go to the bathroom. Jesus didn't have all the problems that you and I have. His body was divine, not human in any regard. And so that's the idea behind Docetism. And so that's the heresy. And the heresy was condemned at the Council of Nicaea, the first Council of Nicaea. So it's condemned in 325. So super early, people started having this idea of, well, surely Jesus' body isn't like our body. It's not. It can't be the same. You can't have all the limitations that you and I have. And so what they would do is they would put forward that idea. Council had to come together and say, no, that's wrong. Jesus was fully human, meaning he got tired, he went to the bathroom, he felt pain. All the things that you and I suffer with, Jesus also suffered with. And so, but this Christmas carol runs amok in that area. And I'm sure you're familiar with the sentence that I'm going to share with you, but I don't have that on. You should plug these things in. That's what I tell myself all the time. If you want to use electronics, then you just plug them in. All right. So that's the idea behind it. Now it's found in the second verse, and the second verse I'll read it to you because you're familiar with it. I know. It says, "The cattle were lowering, the baby awakes, but little Lord Jesus no crying he makes."
Maybe he's just not crying.
He was just born. Baby's crying. Yeah, when they don't cry, that's a problem. Why do you need to strip out the crying from Jesus in this song? And this isn't just me. This is a common attack on the song. that it steps too far in removing the humanity or emphasizing the divinity of Jesus. It so emphasizes the divinity that you lose the humanity of Jesus. He was born a baby like all other babies. And what do babies do? They cry. And so that's the main critique of this song. Again, like I said at the very beginning of this, if you like these songs and you're like, I don't care what he says about that song, it's my favorite song ever, which I had a lot of last week. It's great. It's great. Enjoy this song. I just want to walk you through and show you some of the areas where some of the carols are a little problematic. And,
So
you know, can you move past that? Yeah, I certainly hope you can.
Yeah.
Like I just said, I listened to Santa Baby in the car on the way to get our Christmas stuff. It was delightful. I love that. Okay.
Is that the only word in the whole song?
That's it. Yep. That's enough.
That's
Well, I mean, so what you want to do with everything is you want to read things. You want to read things critically. You want to make sure that they communicate the proper message about whatever it is. And when you're talking about Jesus, as I said last week, these aren't just songs that we sing. Like, it's not just like you put on Britney Spears and you go to town. Not that any of you do that. Okay, I do, yeah. Huge Britney Spears fan. I realize that I have younger than Britney Spears here and older than Britney Spears here, but I don't have many Britney Spears people here. But it's not a song like that. These are songs that get embedded into us. And if they're songs that that become so much of a part of us that they're embedded in us, then I think that we want to be very careful on what songs are getting embedded into us. And if songs do have not just missteps, but actual heresy contained within them, it's enough to kind of pause and say, I don't know. Sarah?
Actually, what happened in this particular carol was that Mary was worn to a frazzle. She had prayed, and God the Father performed a miracle, and that time the baby woke up, it did not cry.
If only you would have said that earlier. You could have saved me all this time. Yes, there are many. Yeah, that's a really good point, because there are many people that have come to the defense of this song and said, whoa, wait, this is not heresy, and this is why. Many different reasons have been presented. The song steps in heresy. That's just the bottom line. It's all right. It's a fine song. Just verse, the second verse, you just kind of, you just do that little 5-second fast forward, boom. No, you don't have to do that, but it's not great. All right, we're going to move on from there. That's the only point in that song that's bad. It's one word or one phrase that the baby was not crying. So let's look at some really good theology, okay? So really good theology. I'm going to play the song for you, and you tell me you know the song. You know what I realized? Every one of these Christmas songs starts with the title. All right.
Oh, you can't stop now.
You all like this, don't you? This is kind of like your jam, right? All right. Oh, I'm sorry. So super cool theology in here. Better history. The history, and that's why I've tried to find songs that not only have a really cool theology attached to it, but a great story and great history. And so I'm gonna walk you through this one. But any guesses on who wrote the song? If you just guess, you'll get it right. Just guess. Who? Charles Wesley. Anytime I ask about a hymn, who wrote it, the first answer, you know how it is in Sunday school, the correct answer is always Jesus, no matter what the question is? Well, when we're talking about songs, the correct answer, no matter what the question is Charles Wesley. Charles Wesley wrote that. All right, so yeah, you got another Charles Wesley song, and it's written in 1739, and it's inspired by Luke chapter 2, verse 14. Now, I'll read verse 14 to you, but it says, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among those with whom he is pleased." So that's the verse that's going to inspire the song in 1739. And it's a poem. And the poem kind of tells us of this chorus of angels that are singing praises to God. And the song is kind of bringing us into that we are joining in the chorus of angels that are praising God. Which is a really cool idea. You also find that in our liturgy. When I'm behind the table, there are certain parts of our liturgy where, what is it, the Agnus Dei, I think? Where what we're talking about is this chorus of angels, and holy apostles is joining in with them. So it's this idea of being brought into the heavenly spheres and offering praise and worship to God. This is a really cool song. So the original poem, though, was meant to be read either corporately or individually at home on Christmas Day. So it was meant for you, like the image that I got from this is that it was meant for us to maybe gather our family together and to read this poem. And again, it's like a joining in with the heavenly host. Or just sit there and just take in the poem. One of the things that I do, that I like to do, I don't always do, but I like to do it, is get up earlier and find a spot all by myself and spend time by myself, or sometime throughout the day. But that's what the poem was meant to. It was meant to kind of recenter you. And then it's set to music, and it becomes this hymn. So you got in the 18th century, though, so Charles Wesley is part of a group of clergy. And they're like rogue, outcast clergy. And it's Charles Wesley, and it's John Wesley, and it's George Whitefield, and it's a couple other people that you probably don't know. Maybe George Whitefield is the most well-known that you would know. And I'll tell you why you should know George Whitefield in a bit. But it's this kind of rogue group of clergy that nobody wants anything to do with. They've been, pushed outside of the churches. That's why the Methodist Church exists. You all know that, right? Because the Anglicans, our people, we looked at John and Charles Wesley and we said, no, you don't quite fit what we're looking for. And then there's this weird guy, George Whitefield, and he doesn't fit what we're doing either. So they didn't give him a pulpit. Well, when you've got clergy, and clergy aren't given a pulpit, not given a job, they're not given a role that they can fulfill, what they do is they create their own pulpits, their own places. And so, this may be news to you, but before I get into that, they created a club where they met. And it was all these rogue, outcast clergy at Oxford University. And it became referred to as the Holy Club. I don't think that they called it the Holy Club. I think other people mocking them called it the Holy Club. The same thing happened with John and Charles Wesley when they got the title Methodist. That was a pejorative term. It was a derogatory term. We were making fun of them because we said their Christianity or their approach to God was so methodological. Do this, do this, do this, do this, and then you'll find God. And so we were making fun of them. We called them the Methodists, and it stuck. And now they're the Methodists. I don't think that the Holy Club was something that they called themselves, because it doesn't seem to fit their character. I couldn't find anything on this. I think we started calling them the Holy Club, making fun of them. But they were just a strange group of people. But out of them came so many practices in the church that you're probably very uncomfortable with. And so open air preaching. So the idea of somebody getting a box or standing on a barrel and preaching on the corner, that came out of the Anglican Church. We invented that. And it came from George Whitefield, who's the one who first started doing it, and then he passes it on to the Wesleys. And the Wesleys start doing it. And even though John Wesley and Charles are properly considered Methodist, they died Anglican priests. They were Anglicans all the way through their life. So that practice developed in the Anglican Church. Well, kind of outside, in the outskirts, because we wouldn't let them in the church. What else did? Altar calls. They're the first people doing altar calls. They're the first people. Why do you think it's called an altar call? You know what's really funny is all these churches that don't have altars say, oh, we're going to do an altar call. Oh yeah, where'd you get that phrase from? Churches that had altars, because that's where it originated in the Anglican Church. We started altar calls. We also started these kind of groups that developed in churches where people would get further spiritual development. What do they call them in other churches? Come on, it's super easy. They call them small groups. We have a small group meeting tonight at our house. Those started in the Anglican Church, and they didn't start with the proper clergy. No, they started with John, Charles, and George Whitefield. These are the guys that are the rogue guys that are doing things in England outside of the church that are really drawing people towards Christ in a different, unique way. So you've got this rogue group of people. Now, I am eventually going to get to the song, I promise. But the Holy Club is made up of many, many people, but the three main people are John, Charles, and George Whitefield. And Charles is going to write the song, but the song that you know is not the song that Charles wrote. George Whitefield changed it. And George Whitefield is a really cool, fascinating guy. He's an innovator theologically. He's an innovator methodologically in how the church operates. He met Benjamin Franklin, and Benjamin Franklin was super impressed with him. He would stand on a barrel and he would preach. And Benjamin Franklin estimated that over 3,500 people could hear his voice clearly in his sermons from the barrel. No mic, no nothing. He did some scientific experiment. I was super impressed with him. Jonathan Edwards in the United States had him come and preach because he came to the United States with the Wesleys. So he is also influenced. If you're familiar with the story of the Wesleys, who influenced the Wesleys when they came across? The Moravians. So when the Wesleys come across, they're influenced by the Moravians. George Whitefield is also being influenced by the Moravians, and he spends time in the United States. And what he does is he goes around preaching. He interacts with Benjamin Franklin. He interacts with Jonathan Edwards, who is a well-known preacher. Jonathan Edwards did not particularly like him. He frustrated the Wesley brothers, and yet they loved him at the same time. And part of the reason that he frustrated them is because he would do things like this. He would take Charles' song and he would change it. But this time he changed it for the better. Nobody likes their stuff being changed, right? But he changed it for the better. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to show you where he changed it. And he doesn't change it once, he changes it twice. And the first change is not all that significant. The second change is hugely significant. And I'm going to leave you to figure out why it's so significant. So the first change is this. I'll read the line to you. This is what Charles Wesley wrote. He said, "Hark how all the welkin rings." Does anybody know what a welkin is? Nobody knows what a welkin is, right? It's kind of like, it refers to the sky and everything in the sky, like the cosmos. So all the cosmos are ringing out praise. But George Whitefield is going to change it to "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." So the title that you know was not the title that Charles Wesley gave it. It was changed by George Whitefield. But the second change is the really significant one. And the second change, Charles Wesley wrote this: "Glory to the King of Kings." George Whitefield is going to change it to "Glory to the Newborn King." Why is it significant? From King of Kings to the newborn King.
It implies humanity.
And saying that he's a king even as a child.
Okay, yeah.
It implies his humanity.
Old Testament and New Testament.
Ooh, in what way?
Well, King of Kings would imply as in a succession that was already in existence. Or newborn king might imply that this was changed.
Could you say it takes you from God the Father
Yeah.
to Jesus?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what it does is when Charles writes this, it's a fine line. It's not a bad line. But when he writes this, King of Kings is, we're going to give praise to God the Father. But when George Whitefield changes it, now we're giving glory to Jesus. And that's when the song gets even better than before. And so it's a significant change because who we're giving glory to changes significantly. And now we're giving glory to Jesus specifically. So I think it's an amazing song. I put it up here. Unfortunately, you can't see it. But it's a compare and contrast between Charles Wesley's and George Whitefield's. And there are many, many changes in here. And to be honest, George Whitefield made the song a lot better. He focused the song on Jesus and giving glory to Jesus, which is a really cool change that takes place. So, Hark the Herald Angels Sing is a really cool song. It's not one of my favorite songs, certainly not my favorite like you all love it, which I'm glad that you do. But theologically, it's a really good song. So we're going to move on to a Could Be Better song. So Could Be Better song. Let's see. You saw it enough. It's better than last week. Okay. You already know the song, though. I just wanted to see if it started out with the title. Of course it did. All right. We Three Kings. You probably really like this song, don't you? Because I do. I love this song. It's actually one of my favorite songs. I really enjoy this song. And it's written by an Episcopal priest named John Henry Hopkins. And if you haven't followed so far, the good songs and the bad songs, most of them that we've gone over have their origin in the Anglican Church. Most of them are either coming out of England or coming out of the Episcopal Church, which is really kind of cool. But he wrote it in 1857, and it's inspired by Matthew chapter 2, verse 11. I'll read the verse to you. And going into the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they fell down and they worshiped him. Then, opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. So that's what it's inspired by. And so you might think that the song's on the list because of something to do with the kings. Yeah? I think that's what most people think. Because there are problems with the kings, are there not? What are some of the problems with the kings? There's 3 of them. They're not kings. That's one. They're magi. They're sorcerers. They're not kings. They're astrologers. Okay? All right. That's one. We have no idea that there are 3. We just assume there's 3 because there were 3 gifts. But, what if there's 2 and one has 2 gifts and one has 1? Sometimes people bring more gifts than others.
They went in together on something.
So, yeah, exactly. All right. What's the last one? The last one's the hardest one. Yeah. We have no idea where they're from. Now, Orient is not trendy these days. It's not the language, so we would say Asian. But we have no idea that they're Asian. We just assume because they came from the East.
No, they said they saw the star in the East. So they came from the West.
Came from the West.
Came from the West.
Even worse. All those Western Asians.
What's the scripture again? I'm sorry. What's the scripture again?
2:11. All right, so, yeah, there's problems there. I'm not going to nitpick on those. It's not a big deal. I don't really care. There's other problems. We'll look at the other problems. So the reason the song is on this list is for a far more basic reason. And it's probably so obvious that you never even saw it. You just look right past it. By the way, this sign, that's one of my favorites. It's a Pizza Hut sign, and it says, "We have pizza." So it's so obvious that you don't even pay attention to it. Any guesses why we 3 kings would be problematic? Or maybe not ideal. Remember, it could be better theology. All right. When you read... Well, let me ask you this. Can we all agree that Advent and Christmas are about Jesus? Yeah? Okay. Can we also all agree that, for the most part, the chorus of a song is kind of the really important part because it is repeated over and over and over again and is generally about the main topic of the song? Can we agree on that? What's the chorus of this song about?
Star.
A star.
But the star is leading us. Okay, I'll stop.
The entire song is about a star. It's not even about Jesus. It's about the star. And any time we focus on the wrong thing, it's kind of the job of the clergy to say, no. You want to focus on Jesus, not the star. It's the same thing as the elements. Like at communion, if you show up at communion and you start bowing down and worshiping the elements, and we've got to put the elements in, oh, we do all that. Just testing you. That's why what we do at the Lord's Supper is so important that we do it correctly. Because it's so easy to get hung up on the things that point us to Jesus rather than Jesus himself. And I think the author of this song got so hung up on the star that unfortunately he missed Jesus. Now the song does talk about Jesus in different points, but the main kind of focus and thrust of the song is the star, which I think is kind of ridiculous. I love the song. I play it all the time. But it's not what I want in a theological song. I don't want my theological songs leading me to the thing that points to Jesus. I want them to lead me to Jesus. Does that make sense? I know I'm nitpicking. But it's a little problematic. It is.
Have found Jesus. These are astronomers. They look to the stars.
No, they had the Holy Spirit. They had
Not until
God
they got
guiding
there.
them.
Not till they got
I bet the
there.
Holy Spirit never said recalculating.
You can't have the main focus of the song being on a star rather than on Jesus. You just can't. You just can't.
Okay,
It's not my favorite.
we'll give it to you.
All right. The last one's fun. Let's have some fun. Okay? It's a really good song. Okay? You ready? I'm going to play it for you before we get into it.
Is this good, bad, or indifferent?
This is good. This is good.
Have a jolly Christmas? No? Oh, good Lord.
Not only,
Nothing to
not only is it Frosty, it's Willie Nelson. All right. Now, okay. Frosty is actually a really good song if you look at it as theological allegory. Much in the way that we look at C.S. Lewis's writings, the Chronicles of Narnia, those are meant to be read through the lens of theological allegory. That's how he wrote them. When he's talking about the lion, he's not talking about the lion, he's talking about God. And so when you read those and it's theological allegory, the same thing you can do with Frosty the Snowman, I promise you, and I'm going to walk you through it because it's cool. All right. You guys think I'm nuts. All right. We're going to end with some fun here. So, you just look at the lyrics. And the lyrics are this. Frosty the Snowman, a fairy tale they say. He was made of snow, but the children know how he came to life one day. You can clearly see, you can make the Jesus argument in those lines. I'm going to walk you through the whole Jesus thing in Frosty the Snowman, okay? Frosty is made of snow, which comes down from heaven. So all this snow coming down from heaven, and all of a sudden Frosty is made. He comes to life among the people, lives among the people. He gathers a group of followers who are considered to be simple people. Who does Frosty gather? Children. Who does Jesus gather? We can call the apostles children. In the early days, they just don't get it. They're not what they're supposed to be. The reason that Jesus can go to the disciples and say, follow me, and they drop everything they're doing, is because no other rabbi in the world was ever going to go to them and say, follow me. So the opportunity to follow a rabbi, they take, because they were simple people. They were fishermen for the most part. They were laborers. They were not educated. They were not people that other rabbis were trying to gather up. They're very simple. So Frosty, same thing. Others reject him. Fairy tale, they say. Same thing with Jesus. The authorities oppose him. Do you remember in the show or in the song? Who's the opposition? The traffic cop. There we go. So the authorities oppose him. You go through. Frosty lived his life knowing death was approaching. What's death? The sun. What's death for Jesus? The cross. Frosty dies, but before he dies, what does he tell the children? I'm coming back again someday. If you can't make the theological leap in Frosty the Snowman, I don't know. It's got the story of Jesus right in there. I hope so.
Human hands.
Now, I'm not saying that Frosty the Snowman is perfect theology. But I do think that it illustrates a really important concept for us. And that concept is that you can find Jesus in the mundane and simple things. You can find Jesus in the silly things. And part of what we do as Christians is that we find Jesus where other people don't see him. Other people, they go through Frosty the Snowman, they never think of Jesus once. I promise you, you're going to think of Jesus every time you hear Frosty the Snowman from this point on. And if that's the case, then I've done my job. Okay?
I'm really concerned that I don't see the Trinity in this.
Oh,
I've got an answer for that.
No.
The Trinity wasn't intentionally ripped out of this. If it was, then I would have a problem. But the author did not put the Trinity in there, which is okay, because that wasn't his focus. But if it would have been intentionally ripped out, I would have great problems with it. Even though Frosty the Snowman is, in some sense, a Christ figure. And when you watch movies, and you're going to hear about a Christ figure in a movie this morning, but when you watch movies and you interact with people, you will see Christ figures all over the place. You will see people who stand in that place and remind you of Jesus. And Frosty does that. You can teach your kids, your grandkids, Jesus Christ, the gospel of Jesus Christ through the song of Frosty. You can. And you can do it better than some of the Christmas carols I shared with you. Questions, comments, concerns, and after Frosty the Snowman, anybody needs counseling? No? All good.
This was really good, Todd. A great session.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yay!
Well, it was fun. If you want to do it next year, we can do it next year too.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of Christmas carols out there that I can pick apart.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're good. We're out of here.
Family circus cartoon, and the kids were calling it Hark Herald the Angel Sings. Did you get the text I sent you this morning?
I did.